Howdy y'all, my name is Ration Outlaw, and today's video we'll be doing a response to Ben Shapiro and the whole Sports Illustrated trans woman on the cover of it. I think there's some points I probably will disagree with Ben Shapiro on here, so we'll see how this goes. Now I know this is different from my normal content. It's just going to take me a long time to do a video because I'm busy with work, so hopefully you guys are okay with this, at least for this video. And if you do like it, I can do more of this kind of style. Anyways, let's get started.
Trans woman who has now been featured on the cover of Sports Illustrated. This is the trans woman whose name is Leyna Bloom. Now, Leyna Bloom has had surgeries and hormone treatment and looks physically like a woman, right? Which, by the way, seems rather transphobic to me, because if you truly, Sports Illustrated, wanted to make the case that trans women are women, then trans women shouldn't have to look like swimsuit models. In fact, trans women, this seems fatphobic to me. Trans women should actually look like Laurel Hubbard. Why isn't Laurel Hubbard on the cover of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition? You know, the New Zealand...
Okay, so far Ben Shapiro hasn't mentioned anything about this being a more woke position other than maybe that they support for trans women in a general sense. That's not a very good, I think, complaint to bring up because, again, as you have said here, she looks like a woman. I think they know that men like women, and even if this trans woman is biologically male, she looks like a woman, and since they're not going to probably see her penis, assuming she has one still, I don't think men are really ever going to really notice all that much unless they read into it. Maybe in the article I would assume it might say, but who knows, let's see.
Weightlifter who's now going to be weightlifting in the Olympics and has more to do with sports than Leyna Bloom. Why is it that only a trans woman who looks like a stereotypical swimsuit model in a low-cut bikini is now considered a fitting figure for the cover of Sports Illustrated? It seems very, very fatphobic, very transphobic, frankly, because it seems to suggest that the only trans women who ought to be treated as women are trans women who conform to all stereotypes regarding women. Leyna Bloom, my understanding has had all of the surgeries to fake female body parts. But as we know, that is to suggest that is a requirement of trans women to be treated as women is violative of their norm.
I'm just going to say, Ben Shapiro, I don't think is right here to criticize this part because he hasn't given anything in which they're trying to say anything radical in the sense, I should say, that what we typically think of what's radical, saying that children should transition or something like that. So far, it's just a trans woman on a cover. He hasn't given any kind of article portion within the magazine that's said any kinds of radical views. It's just so far, it's just an image of a trans woman on this cover of Sports Illustrated.
It is violative of decency. So truly, Sports Illustrated has not gone far enough until Sports Illustrated suggests that red-blooded American males get used to the idea of a trans woman who looks exactly like a man. Because as we know, sex is really all in your head. Gender is really all in your head. And the person on the cover of Sports Illustrated shouldn't have to be a swimsuit model-looking male masquerading as female. It should be a dude with twig and berries and chest hair and no fake breasts being treated essentially the same as a woman. That's when we know we've reached parity, I think. I think that's the really important thing. Now, look, the reason that Sports Illustrated is doing this is for the bleeps and giggles, right? They are doing it to push forward the quote-unquote social justice agenda. The idea being that if they push forward a biological man on the cover of Sports Illustrated as a woman, and if you say, no, even if that biological man has had many surgeries and hormone treatments to look like a woman, that is still a biological man, that if you say that, then this...
I'm just going to say here, although I understand Ben Shapiro is very conservative and he doesn't believe that a trans woman can be considered a woman and he will call them a man, I do think he could give some courtesy and just say biological males rather than biological man. I just think that it is a certain courtesy. That's my personal opinion. Anyways, I just wanted to give that out.
This means that you are somehow transphobic, or if you, even though that is the biological truth, or that you're mean and vicious, Look, Sports Illustrated's a free company, can do what it wants, right? It's a private company. But there is obviously a social attempt to normalize the idea that biological men who look like women are in fact women, which of course is a wild degradation of what it actually means to be a woman.
Again, this is just an image. This is just a picture. So far, Ben Shapiro hasn't given any kind of statement by Sports Illustrated saying anything of the sort. So I don't think it's just for him to say this about Sports Illustrated when he's not giving anything other than the photo. Because I need some more evidence to say that somehow this is a very woke agenda. At most, this is just a regular, agenda, just saying that trans women can be beautiful too, or just stuff like that. It's nothing outrageous. There's nothing here. It's a nothing burger so far.
A word with an actual definition. So it's pretty obvious what Sports Illustrated is doing here. But Sports Illustrated didn't stop there. So one of the other models on the cover of SI Swimsuit Edition is, of course, the tremendous Megan Thee Stallion, because of her tremendous history with sports. According to Sports Illustrated Swimsuit Edition, Megan Thee Stallion is no stranger to magazine covers, but the rapper and songwriter always dreamed of being on the cover of SI Swimsuit, which is a weird dream. She remembers as a young girl looking at the magazine and saying, one day, this is going to be me. A couple of decades later, the Houston native would have several Grammys under her belt and make history as the first rapper on the SI Swimsuit cover. And she is the perfect fit. Amazing. Amazing. And then finally, they have an athlete on the cover. So who is the athlete who's on the cover of Sports Illustrated? The athlete on the cover of Sports Illustrated is Naomi Osaka. Now, you'll recall that Naomi Osaka withdrew from one of the tennis majors after a blow up with the media in which she just wouldn't do her media hits. And the ATP, the Tennis Professional Association, they said, you need to do that, right? It is your job. Part of your job as a tennis player is to deal with the media.
Okay, now he's going on that. That's completely separate issue from this. So I know he often combines portions of his videos to make them longer and not super, super short. But I'm not sure if that's really all that great to put this in this video. I think it should be saying something else in the title, because it's a bit of a filler, I feel, in this video, because I want to hear about what he says about the Sports Illustrated, strictly speaking about trans issues, if there's anything that they say.
Because this is true in all sports. You're supposed to do the press conferences. And Naomi Osaka then went out and she claimed that she suffered from deep anxiety.
I'm going to skip a little bit.
Not diagnosed anxiety. You know what people with anxiety disorders typically do illustrated. So strange that she doesn't want to take questions from, people who ask critical questions, but if you are doing a Sports Illustrated cover or a Time magazine cover, then all of a sudden, all the hesitancy goes away. And by the way, it's not as though Naomi Osaka was being asked vicious, brutal questions. She was being asked questions about her performance as a tennis player. Says Sports Illustrated, Naomi Osaka is no doubt an athletic powerhouse at 23 shields, 4 grand. Why anyone would disagree with me? She said she was surprised that anyone would disagree with her about her very left-wing view of race in the United States. She was named one of 2020 Sports Illustrated Sports Persons of the Year for her activism, was on Time's annual list of the 100 most influential people in the world. Finally, there is the Sports Illustrated take on Leyna Bloom. Okay, so here is what the Sports Illustrated Swimsuit Edition says. Quote, Leyna Bloom began her rise, remember Leyna Bloom is a biological man, began her rise to fame in the ballroom dance community and has since broken numerous barriers in the modeling world. She was one of the few openly transgender models to walk the runway during New York Fashion Week in 2017 and was the first transgender woman of color to appear in Vogue India. And how about acting? Yes, she's tackling that too. Leyna made her acting debut in the film Port Authority, marking the first film in Cannes Film Festival history that featured a transgender woman of color in a leading role. Now, Leyna makes history yet again as the first transgender cover model in Sports Illustrated swimsuit history and the first trans person of color to appear on our pages. More importantly, the 27-year-old uses this platform to speak about acceptance, love, and change. She's passionate about inspiring.
So that just sounds so far the typical stuff that they would normally say, which is still benign. It's nothing. I really wouldn't really care. And I don't think Ben Shapiro should care either. Let's continue. Maybe there's something else, but let's continue.
Inspiring others to love themselves and be who they want to be, unless they're a dude who just wants a biological woman, in which case they're a vicious, brutal sexist. That'd be terrible.
Okay, that was never, from what it sounds, that wasn't said in the article. So I think that's wrong of Ben Shapiro just to put words in their mouths. Now, maybe they do hold those opinions. I cannot say for certain if they I cannot say for certain if they do or do not, but maybe they do hold those opinions. But unless it says in the article, you shouldn't say it like that.
So say the editors, among the many things we've learned over the past 18 months is how much we value being part of a community, how much we miss that interaction when it's taken away. This issue represents the culmination of our powerful community coming together during these trying times to make history. This is what the editor says. So wonderful stuff. I'm sure that all of the 17-year-old boys who are receiving the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition will be thrilled to see a man who believes he is a woman and has had surgeries to look like a woman on the cover of the magazine. Now, again, I don't care very much about the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. Just as a cultural marker, it seems significant, right? We're not going to play this gaslighting game where the left does something. They say it's highly significant. You point out that it is highly significant that we are treating a transgender woman the same way we would treat an actual born woman swimsuit model on the cover of magazines. And then they say, why are you even noticing? Is it important to you? The Sports Illustrated cover isn't important to me. What's important to me is the mandate that has come down from our cultural commissars that we act as though a male who has had hormone treatments and surgeries is the full equivalent to a woman in every way, including in terms of sexual attraction. That is a very interesting and I think rather unsupportable take in actual life, but it's something that the media wish to cram down.
Okay, so it doesn't seem like Ben Shapiro brought any legitimate claims that they had said in that piece. So all his opinions, well, yes, there are opinions, and he can hold those opinions. I'm not going to say he can't or anything like that. I just think his opinion here is wrong because this is very benign. It's a nothing burger. From what it sounds, there's no thing like super radical. It just sounds like the hippie-go-lucky kind of like, or not the hippie-go-lucky, but, you know, just like pop support. This is just basically, this is a trans woman. She's the first of her kind in this magazine. Oh, yo, yo, yo. But nothing like saying that she's just like any other woman or anything like, even like that doesn't sound like. It just sounds like they're just saying that she's a trans woman and it's telling about her story, about her wanting, you know, to do what she's been doing and yada yada. It's just complete nothing burger, really. I think Ben Shapiro is way overreacting over this because this is, it's just nothing. There's nothing else I can say. It is nothing. Anyways, if you like this video, please give it a like, subscribe, share, comment down below, and tell me what you thought. And if you like this format, and if you want to see more of it, you know, let me know down in the comments. And if you don't, let me know down in the comments, and I won't probably do this format ever again. But I just wanted to do this because I wanted to get out a video really quickly, and I just don't have a lot of time anymore right now because of work. So if you like this format, please give it a like, subscribe, share it. Oh, but I will still be doing my regular kind of content where I put on, you know, all my kinds of sources and a regular kind of reacting, and rather than this more live reacting, because right now this is a sort of, well, semi-live reacting. So if you like it, give it a comment, subscribe, all that. And if you really like my content, please consider donating to my Patreon or to my Ko-fi. Do all this, and I'll see y'all later.